Hi, welcome to the Bookish Quilter, where we talk about quilts and we talk about books. My name is Barbara, and today we're talking about one of the greatest stash-busting patterns ever invented by womankind, the Tumbler. That's a Tumbler quilt behind me. It's one of the simplest quilts you can make, second only to sewing squares together. You can purchase Tumbler templates in many sizes. If you have a die cutting system, you can get dies to cut your tumblers, or as I'm going to show you here, you can draft your own tumbler templates any size you would like using graph paper. Tumblers lend themselves to hand or machine quilting, also English paper piecing and foundation paper piecing. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the differences in making your templates for the different methods. This is machine pieced, as is this one. And this one. As you can see, templates can be skinny, they can be fat, they can be large, or they can be small. This one is hand pieced and hand quilted. And what I did here, I don't know if you can see it very well. I started the beginning and end of each row with a brown tumbler. And I used that fabric for my top and bottom borders. So I have a kind of zigzag side border on this quilt. You might see it better this way. This is another little one I did. I had Japanese style fabrics left over, and I call this sake cups. This is machine pieced, and again, it's hand quilted. I like to print my graph paper off the internet, which gives me options in the size of the grid. I generally work with 1/4 inch, which is like this, but if you're doing very tiny tumblers, you might want to print at 1/8. You can print either on paper or on cardstock. One of the benefits to printing on cardstock is it's sturdier. You can cut your templates directly out of this and trace around them. I'm going to show you how to do that in a minute and talk about the different methods. We're going to talk about drafting your tumbler templates. There's two ways, with or without seam allowances. If you are doing English paper piecing, you're going to want one without seam allowances for your templates, and you're going to want one with seam allowances for your fabric. You're going to cut your fabric with the larger one, and you're going to wrap it around the smaller one. So we're going to start with that. We're going to decide what size we're going to make our template. And let's say we're going to go 2 inches high. So we're going to go, that's 8 squares here. This is a 1/4 inch square. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So our template is going to be like that. We're going to make a vertical line on one of the lines on the graph paper. That is just going to be something to measure from, so your tumbler is symmetrical. You're now going to measure over however many squares you want it to be on each side of that line. I'm going to say 5 squares and 5 squares, and then the bottom is going to be 3 squares. So this is going to be our template without the seam allowances. So as I said, if you're English paper piecing, this is what you're cutting your templates to. Now you need to make another one with the seam allowances for your fabric. So we're going to go over a little bit. we're going to draft one exactly the same way. We're going to go 5 over, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 3 from each side here. Now you want to add your 1/4 inch. If you prefer to add a little more, that's fine, but whatever size you want to add, you're then going to take a ruler and lay that particular measurement line. This is a 1/4 inch, so I'm going to lay my 1/4 inch marking, which is right there, over here, and I'm going to mark that's. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. And now I'm going to go like this. And like this. This is adding a 1/4 inch, by the way. And that is the size I'm going to cut my fabric. Now, if I were machine piecing them or hand piecing them, not using English paper piecing or foundation paper piecing method, I would just cut all my fabric this size and I would sew on the 1/4 inch line. For foundation paper piecing, this is another option. You can piece a whole row at a time. So here is the whole row of our tumblers. I'm not getting too precise on this, but here we go. We're going to start with, again, with a line. You only need to make a line for your first one. And we're going to go over 2 squares on each side of the line here, and we're going to go 3 squares over here. So this is going to be our tumbler, right like this. So the next one is going to be reversed. So it's going to be 6 squares at the top and 4 squares at the bottom. And then the next one is going to be 4 squares at the top and 6 squares at the bottom. And you can just keep doing this over and over again, like this, and then you're going to join your dots, and you're going to go all the way across your row, and that is going to give you your foundation paper piecing pattern. Now, if you want to add your 1/4 inch seam allowances to the top and bottom and the beginning and end, you can do that. Otherwise, you could just do that when you cut your fabric. You could add that 1/4 inch and cut, which is what I would do. But there are your options for cutting your tumblers, any size, with or without seam allowances. Now I'm going to talk about a couple ways of making more permanent templates. In other words, tracing them onto plastic. We have our template, say, over here that we want to trace. And we need to make a lot of those pieces. So, to make a template that doesn't wear out, you could use commercial template plastic if they sell them at your quilt shop, or you could order them online. But if you don't want to wait, look around your house. Maybe you have something you could use. Deli lids, these are good. You trace your pattern piece on this and cut out. I like to use a Pigma pen. You can find them in craft stores such as Michael's. Staples carries them. They're a fine point pen that doesn't run and doesn't smear. Another option is the plastic containers that things like lettuce blends come in, where you buy those containers of different kinds of salads. The top and bottom of those are usually flat, and if they have a paper label, I just soak it in hot water and then put a wet washcloth on top and let it sit, and then that'll peel right off. I don't get too concerned about any glue residue, because if you turn that so it's up against your fabric, that just gives you a little bit of extra grippiness when you're tracing your pieces. Another option, and this is thanks to Karen Brown of Just Get It Done Quilts, is a flexible cutting mat. These come 2 in a package at Dollar Tree, and again, you can trace on them and cut. The only downside to this is it comes out much more precise if you cut with a rotary cutter, and it does take a good firm press to cut these out. So there's a few options for that. And now we're going to go on to the book. The book I'm going to discuss today is a 20th century American classic written in 1927 by Willa Cather. And it is not My Antonia, although that is a wonderful book too. This book is Death Comes for the Archbishop. The title can be a little off-putting. Spoiler alert, he dies in the end after a long and wonderful life. The story starts in 1851. After the Mexican-American War, the New Mexico territory is ceded to the United States. The Catholic Church sets up the Archdiocese of Santa Fe and needs a bishop to lead it. And the story is the story of the bishop they've chosen, Father Latour, who is based on a real character, by the way, and his life among the people of New Mexico in the 19th century. It's a wonderful character-driven book. If you like books with plots, this is not it. It's episodes in his life as he lives among the people who were formerly considered Mexicans, who are now Americans, and the indigenous people of the area, and the settlers moving west into the territory. And it's a timeless book. I mean, you feel suspended in time. You almost forget when the book takes place. And there's a scene where Father Latour goes to New Orleans, and it's almost jarring because you don't realize that, oh, you're in the middle of the 19th century and there's trains and street lights and whatever. You're thinking you're back in 15th or 16th century Mexico in some ways. But as I said, it's a definite character-driven book, and the landscape itself is almost a character. Very beautifully written. The opening scene, which takes place in the hills overlooking Rome, is unforgettable. And I really think it's worth a read. It's not a big book. It's less than 300 pages. Again, Death Comes for the Archbishop by Willa Cather. And I hope you've liked this video. I hope you have fun making your Tumbler quilts and using up your stash. And please like, subscribe, comment, and I will see you next time. Have a great day.